What are firmographic sprints and how should you be using them? Let's talk all about it on today's episode of Closing Time. Thanks for tuning into Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Val Riley, Head of Marketing for Unbounced, Insightly, and LeadsRx. Today, I'm joined by Todd Caponi. He is a sales consultant and author of The Transparency Sale, The Transparent Sales Leader, and soon to come, 4 Levers Negotiating. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, so fun fact, you were actually the very first guest on Closing Time more than 2 years ago. Since then, we've aired 160 episodes and had well over 100 guests, but you were there when it all began, Todd.
That's right. That's a tear rolling down my cheek with joy.
So we wanted to reconnect with you because you did a training session for our sales team here at Insightly and Unbounce. And, we focused a little bit on verticals and we looking at our business in this way, perhaps we thought maybe other businesses were struggling with the vertical conversation. So it felt like a good opportunity to bring you in.
Perfect. Yeah. I think, to start, when we talk about verticals, I, at its core, have always felt like so many good and well-run organizations, they define what's called their ICP, their ideal customer profile, right? Which is cool. Yeah, we should do that. However, I'm actually an advocate for doing something called firmographic sprints within the ICPs. I call them extreme firmographic focus sprints. And we can talk a little bit about what that means and how that works. But it has had a marked impact on my career as a leader, the organizations that I've run, and they're actually not that hard to execute.
All right. So you've got my interest piqued. How do you define a firmographic sprint and how should businesses be using them?
Well, I'll start with a little story. So way back when I took on my first SVP of sales job, it was a small team and we had a massive addressable market. Our ICP was huge. It was anybody that was in discrete manufacturing. So for anybody that doesn't know what that means, discrete manufacturing is essentially any organization that builds stuff where they start with pieces, they put it together to make something big. So that's airplanes, cars, heavy machinery, oil rigs, like all that kind of stuff. So you imagine you got 6 reps, you got 1,000 potential customers you could call on. Cool. Like that's our ICP, discrete manufacturers. Here's the problem. When my reps would wake up in the morning, they were essentially focused on multiple verticals, multiple buyer personas across multiple geographies every single day. And as a result, if you're calling on 5 verticals in a day, 10 verticals in a day, you can only truly be an expert in what you do, not in what they do. And so what had happened was we were struggling as an organization, but we realized aerospace and defense, gosh, you know what? That could be a really good spot for us. There's plenty to go after for 6 reps. Our deal sizes are really big. We're winning a high percentage of them, and we're winning them fast. Let's double down there. And so we ended up, my CEO knew a retired aerospace and defense expert, a guy that had been in the industry for 40 years. He was retired. And he's like, hey, I bet you he'd come in and hang out with us for a little while. So we brought him in. We had him teach our reps, and I'm going to go through the 4 core categories of information you need to be able to execute this in a minute. But we had him just start to teach us about aerospace and defense. Next thing you know, my reps that have 200 accounts each to go after, we didn't have to shrink their territories. They'd wake up in the morning and go, who are my aerospace and defense ones? I can't wait to call them. And they started doing that. All of a sudden, we were only doing $3 million in revenue at the time. We did a $7 million deal with Boeing. We then got Northrop Grumman. We got Gulfstream. We got Cessna. And the next thing you know, we're growing 400% year over year. And then we started to go out slowly from there and started to do that with other industries. But the point being that once we got all of our reps to be really, really smart about aerospace and defense, their confidence became contagious. Those customers welcomed us in because we were making them smarter about their business, not ours. And they couldn't wait to invest in us because they saw us as partners and not vendors. That at its core, a firmographic sprint was focusing on one tight swim lane, 4 to 8 weeks, dive deep into it. And then you start to see the fruits of that and then move out slowly from there. That's all the concept is.
Todd, is this specifically for the outbound efforts that the sales team is doing, or did you coordinate with the marketing team to have inbound leads coming in for that specific firmographic type?
Well, yeah, it was definitely collaborative. So marketing was highly involved in this, and the marketing's lens on this. So here's the other piece that always kind of drove me nuts. We look at this funnel concept and like, hey, let's bring everybody in and then we'll vet them and go through and the good stuff will come out the bottom. I've always been an arguer that every lead has a cost. You know, whether it's a cost of us having to spend our time and engage in it, whether it's we engage with it, we find they're not a good fit, but now they look at us as not a good fit. And the next thing you know, they're telling their friends, oh, don't go there. They're like, they're not a good fit. And so what I was always trying to create is instead of a funnel, create a cylinder where our marketing efforts were focused on, hey, let's do some explosive type stuff around aerospace and defense for a while. Let's align to the events that are going on in that space. And when I take you through these 4 things here in a minute, you'll see how that all feeds itself, that we become the experts in that space and the go-to. And then when any aerospace and defense company is thinking about a solution like ours, we're the first ones they call. That's really the goal of all of that alignment, is just on brand. Let's brand ourselves as the experts in this space. Even though we can call on all these, this is our bread and butter right now. And then you expand out slowly from there.
So at the time you're in that firmographic sprint, specifically for aerospace, inbound leads that are coming in for other industries, you're still working those leads effectively as well, but it's just not the focus at that time.
Exactly. It's meant to be a confidence builder and to really hone our focus and become experts in a space for short sprints. It does not mean that we need to shut off everybody else. If somebody wants to buy from us and we know we can help them achieve optimal outcomes, right? As one of the quotes back here from 1921 says, if the truth won't sell it, don't sell it. So just because it's inbound doesn't mean you have to sell to them. However, just because you're doing a firmographic sprint doesn't mean you shouldn't sell to them either.
And just one more in the weeds question. How long would one of these firmographic sprints typically last?
Well, it really all depends on how big the deals are that you're working and kind of the comprehensive nature of the consensus buying environment that you're selling to. One of the companies that I advised, they were selling more transactional stuff. They did just a little 6-week sprint around, they were selling to retailers and brands. They did a little 6-week sprint around apparel footwear and started just learning everything about the shoe space. The next thing you know, they got Crocs, they got Skechers, they got Echo. They're like, holy crap, let's go to health and beauty. And they just kind of went out slowly from there. They could do it faster. In our world, in aerospace and defense, we did it for a longer period of time because these are heavily invested deals. I only had 6 reps, and suddenly we had a pipeline of 7-figure deals that we all needed to be focused on. So that one obviously took a little bit longer.
Todd, what does it take to do a focused firmographic sprint?
Well, one of the things that's funny to me is, a lot of times when I talk to companies, they're bringing customers in. They're bringing experts in. And a lot of times when they bring customers in, they're always asking them, hey, tell us about how awesome we are. Oh, what problems did you have that we could solve? Like that kind of stuff, which makes you feel good, but it doesn't really help you. My process on this is whenever we're engaging with customers or experts, there's 4 core categories of things that we want to learn that are going to help us be smarter so that we can help our customers be smarter. The number one thing, so we brought that expert in. And when we even talk to any experts, we talk to customers, or we talk to experts within our own company, which I'll get to in a second. Question number one that we always asked them was, what are the current headwinds and tailwinds going on in your industry and your role right now? So what's keeping you from accomplishing your goals, and what are the things that are swooping you up and making you feel really good about what's to come. Understanding those headwinds and tailwinds was vitally important. So that was number one. Number two is understanding how they're measured. So thinking about, we were selling to heads of manufacturing, for example. Like, what constitutes success in your role? Like, what are the key things, whether they're metrics or milestones, that determine whether or not you're succeeding in your role or not? Really important to know, especially if you're going to be calling on VPs of manufacturing, for example. Number three is, where do you go to get smarter about your industry and your role? In other words, what are you reading? Who do you follow? Are there podcasts that you listen to? And we would get those answers, and then we would go start following them. We would start being there, right? So that one was super important and super valuable. And then number four, which isn't really a question, but it's so helpful. I can't believe more people don't do this, is show us your inbox. In other words, would you be willing to show us in your inbox what kinds of messages you get from people like us? And what are the ones that automatically get deleted, and which are the ones that you want to read and dig into? And once you do, which are the ones that go, oh, this person's helpful versus this person's trying to sell me? So show us your inbox was always a fun one that we'd always ask. We'd always tee it up ahead of time so they wouldn't be put on the spot. But along those same lines, we would ask that of executives in our company all the time, whether they had anything to do with a role that we're trying to sell into or not. Back in one of my companies, you know them, it was Exact Target. We were selling to marketers. Right down the hallway is our CMO. We'd bring them into a sales meeting and go, hey, Tim, show us your inbox. Like, what's standing out? What's getting deleted? Hey, digital marketing team, come in here. What do you get? Right? That empathy for the inbox of an executive, for people that are going to contribute to the deals that you're working on, especially your customers and the experts in the space, the most valuable thing that we could have ever done, and we did it over and over and over it again. So number four, show us your inbox.
Love it, Todd. So I feel like when the salesperson is educated, the expectations of the sales process are going to change. Like when the prospect knows that this vendor understands their business, I feel like there's a shift in their expectations for how that buyer's journey is going to go.
Yeah, I think so. One of the core things that we did is, again, this might sound crazy, but I always viewed the way that you engage with customers should be more like that done on reality makeover TV shows. I know that might sound crazy, but if you ever watched a Queer Eye, a Restaurant Impossible, Biggest Loser, Extreme Makeover, Bar Rescue, they always follow an approach that never involves a bunch of slides at the beginning talking about here's our products and our awards and our NASCAR. Like, that would be the boringest show of all time. What do they always do? Well, they walk in and they align first. Like, hey, why would you even take a call with me? Why? You've got a billion things going on. I know it, but you're spending an hour with me. Why? Tell me about it. All right, cool. Hey, from our understanding of your role in your industry, here's some things that I'm guessing are top of mind that you didn't mention. What about this? What about this? And you all of a sudden start to get that momentum that, oh, wow, this person is a peer of mine. And as a result, I'm more willing to listen. Now, one of the things that was really important, when we did that giant deal with Boeing way back in like 2008, 2009, they had a problem that they needed solved. But through that understanding of the headwinds and tailwinds, Boeing, for example, at the time, they were trying to get 787s out the door and having a real hard time, and they're getting roasted on CNBC. My rep, who's now retired, but he went in there with a conversation around, hey, here's the problem, here's the potential solution, but gosh, can't we tie that to potentially speeding these planes out the door and doing it at a lower cost and really starting to, get some smoke going around that idea of a real business issue that is creating risk in the business, causing revenue to slow, it's increasing costs. We could solve all that. And what could have been perceived as a $200,000 solution turned into a $7 million solution. So again, that expertise not only helped us become smarter and gain an audience, but that expertise also caused our deal sizes to grow dramatically. One other point to make, Val, is I remember we had these meetings. This was actually a few years later when I was the CRO of Power Reviews. We started doing this. I remember walking into a board meeting, and my board looked at our qualified opportunities in our pipeline. And we had just had a really good quarter. They looked at that and they were like, Todd, the number of qualified opportunities is down. What's going on? Like, are we in trouble 6 months from now? What's marketing not doing? And I was like, I love it. I love it. My marketing is doing exactly what I want them to do. And the fact that it's down is exactly what I want. Because we always, again, go back to this idea that more leads, more opportunities leads to more revenue. I believe that better opportunities, so a smaller number of more tightly aligned opportunities that close at a higher dollar amount, that close more often, that close faster, is the key to getting the kind of growth that you want. It requires a mind shift, but these extreme firmographic focus sprints were core to making all of that happen. And we became Chicago's fastest growing tech company from 2014 to 2017. And I swear some of those types of things were big contributors to making that happen.
You can't argue with success. So I guess the big question is, if I wanted to move forward with firmographic sprints, how do you select which verticals you want to focus on? Do you look at historical wins and work backwards, or is it more forward looking, or what's going on in the market? How do you advise companies on what lanes to start to swim in?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is yes to all of those. Really looking at recent wins and then tying those recent wins across how big are they, how often are we winning them, and how quickly. Like, do we have a message that's really resonating in that space? So that requires looking at your wins. I'm also such an advocate for not only looking at the losses, I've always advocated for this concept of celebrating the losses, meaning when you lose a deal, it's not hey, better luck next time, go get him, champ. It's, hey, let's celebrate you for the effort. Let's even higher celebrate you for the lessons that can be learned. And the more you're willing to point out the things that maybe you wish you would have seen earlier or had done different, something going on in the space that's going to help everybody with deals like that, look at their deals and go, hey, am I investing my most valuable asset, which is my time, in the right opportunities here? That helped illuminate so often where those firmographic focus sprints should happen and where they shouldn't, which is even more important.
All right. Great advice, Todd. As always, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We do appreciate seeing you. And I think we're all going to go off and focus on our first firmographic sprint.
There you go. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in to Closing Time. Remember, you can get the show delivered right to your inbox. Just click the link in the show notes. We'll see you next time.